You know, when we talk about TV icons, some names just instantly come to mind, and Loni Anderson is absolutely one of them. But she was so much more than just a famous actress. She was a real trailblazer, someone who completely flipped stereotypes on their head. And today, we're going to dive into her complex and honestly fascinating legacy together.
All right, so here's how we're going to break it all down. First, we'll touch on the sad news of her passing. Then, we'll jump back to that TV phenomenon that made her a household name. After that, we'll look at her life in the public eye, her incredible advocacy work, and finally, how she's being remembered.
Okay, so let's start with the recent somber news that really brought her incredible life and career back into focus for so many of us. So, Loni Anderson sadly passed away on August 3rd, 2025. She was in a Los Angeles hospital, and her publicist mentioned it was after a prolonged illness. She was 79 years old. And what's really so poignant about it is that her passing came just 2 days before what would have been her 80th birthday. Just heartbreaking. And of course, behind the public figure is a family. Their statement really brought that home. They said, "We are heartbroken," which just reminds you of the very real personal loss. She's survived by her husband, Bob Flick, her 2 kids, Deidre and Quentin, and her grandchildren.
All right, to really get why she was such a big deal, we've got to talk about the role that basically defined a whole era of television. I'm talking, of course, about the WKRP phenomenon.
Okay, this right here, this is the core of her legacy. See, when she got cast as the receptionist Jennifer Marlowe on WKRP in Cincinnati, it would have been so easy for that role to just be another blonde bombshell stereotype, right? But Loni, she flat out refused. She went to the producers and insisted that Jennifer had to be more. Not just glamorous, but, as she put it, the smartest person in the room. And she was. She was the one who was secretly running that whole chaotic radio station from behind her desk.
And boy, did that choice pay off. It wasn't just that audiences loved her for it, the critics did too. We're talking multiple Emmy and Golden Globe nominations. She really became the anchor of that whole show. A sharp, witty, constant presence who just shattered every single expectation people had. And if you want to know what she was really up against, just listen to this. The show's creator, Hugh Wilson, said he was looking for someone with, and I'm quoting here, a body that looked like Jane Mansfield's and a sort of innocent sexuality of Marilyn Monroe. I mean, that's what he was after. But what he got, what Loni gave him, was a character with so much substance and wit that it completely blew past his original vision and basically set a whole new standard for women on TV. Now, of course, with that level of fame on screen came a ton of public fascination with her life off-screen. And that was especially true when it came to her marriage to superstar Burt Reynolds. Man, their relationship was a total Hollywood whirlwind. Back in the 80s, they were one of the biggest power couples out there. I mean, the wedding was this huge deal, but then the divorce. It got so public and so nasty with all these accusations flying back and forth. But here's what really speaks to her character. Years later, they actually reconciled. They became friends again. And when he passed away in 2018, she was there, and she spoke so movingly at his funeral. And through all that drama, all that public heartache, she was always clear that something truly wonderful came out of their time together. She said their adopted son, Quentin, was, quote, the best decision that we ever made in our entire relationship. He was this constant positive thing in her life, no matter what. Okay, so we've talked about the actress, but there's this whole other side to her story that's maybe less known, but honestly, just as important. And that's her tireless work as a health advocate. She became a really prominent and you could tell truly passionate voice for people suffering from COPD. And just so we're all on the same page, that's chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. It's this group of awful lung diseases that block your airflow and make it incredibly difficult to breathe. And this wasn't just some celebrity gig for her. No way. This was deeply, deeply personal. She became a national spokesperson for COPD because she had actually been the caregiver for both of her parents who suffered from the disease, you know. She took that family struggle and turned it into a public mission. And it wasn't just COPD.
After her own daughter, Deidre, was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, she became a fierce advocate for MS awareness, too. So you put it all together, right? The actress, the icon, the mom, the advocate. What does that all add up to? What's the impression she left on the people who actually knew her?
Well, listen to what another TV legend, Barbara Eden, had to say. She remembered Loni not just for the talent we all saw on screen, but for what she was like behind the scenes. She said Loni had razor-smart wit and a glowing sense of humor, but then she adds, even more than that, she had an impeccable work ethic. That says a lot. And then you have this from Morgan Fairchild, who actually worked with her on one of her final projects. She was just devastated. She called Loni the sweetest, most gracious lady. And I think that's so telling, you know? Decades after she became this huge star, it was her kindness and her grace that really stuck with people. So it all comes back to this big question, doesn't it? Loni Anderson's career started with her being celebrated as a sex symbol, but she proved over and over again that she was this incredibly smart, resilient, and compassionate person who used her fame for so much more. Her story really is a powerful reminder, I think, for all of us to look past the shiny public image and really think about the full, complex human being behind the icons we think we know.